Frontline with Courtney Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests. All right, it's an episode of the Frontline podcast. Hey, I'm Tom Parisi. He's Courtney Kenny. Today we're joined by the two newest North Bay Battalion, trade-wise anyway. Signings, that's a little bit different, but we've got defenseman Grayson Ladd, forward Kyle McDonald, both coming from the Windsor Spitfires at the trade deadline. Fellas, we're happy to have you on your first tour of duty here on the podcast, and I just got to ask you right off the top, in your wildest dreams, did you think you'd be traded this year?
You can go ahead first, Mac.
I'm gonna go with no on that one. I think I was shocked for sure. Obviously, like in Windsor, we had a pretty good group out there, and like we were looking to build the trade deadline too. So we were kind of worried. I was kind of thinking like, okay, who are we going to get? Then you get that call into the office, and you get told that you're the one getting shipped off. So it was definitely a big surprise for me. But so far, it's been a good situation, and I'm happy it happened.
Yeah, so kind of along the same lines for me. I remember actually the day that it happened. I think the Spitfires were getting ready to go play golf on the road, and it got canceled. And then we were getting off the bus, and Mac, I don't know, I've never seen his head turn so quick. He snapped back at me, and it was kind of around the rumors when I was supposed to be going to go to Owen Sound, and he's like, "Is this for real, Ladder?" And I said, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'd never heard of nothing going on." And then 20 minutes later, I got called into the office too, and said I was going to North Bay. But like Max said, I think both teams are making a run for it. Obviously North Bay in the East, but I think we have a real good shot and a real good group. So I'm pretty happy with the trade so far for sure.
Did it make it any easier that it was like two guys going at the same time as opposed to one of you going? Like, so you both kind of knew each other, right? Making the trade. So did that make it any easier?
Yeah, for sure. Like Ladder and I, we've been close since my first year in the league. We went through kind of a big injury together, and so we were kind of tight, not playing, spending basically every day together in school and at the rink. So we got really close over the years, and knowing that he was going with me was actually a big, nice relief. Obviously going into a new group, like you can be a little nervous and not knowing many guys, and having a guy with you come in, you know that it's going to be a lot easier to make that transition. And I was happy that it was Ladder.
Yeah, so I'm the same boat as Mac. Obviously, we've known each other since, like he said, his first year in the league, and it was a lot easier transition for myself because I got traded in my first year, obviously from Kids to Windsor, and that was pretty hard because I was just I was a 16-year-old getting used to the league, and then you going from a great franchise in Kitchener to another one in Windsor. It was tough just to kind of get used to different stuff again. But now that I'm an OA and it's my last year, and then obviously coming with Macker, it was really nice just knowing that you got a good friend coming with you to a good place. So
along those lines, Grayson, does it matter when you get traded how old you are, depending on when you're 16 or when you're an OA? Is the feeling the same?
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little bit harder when you're younger, just because you're still feeling out the league and getting your feet kind of wet per se. But I think, it's always kind of an emotional day, especially because like I was in Windsor for 3.5, 4 years, right? So I got really close with my billets, and I was only 45 minutes away from home. So that was kind of tough leaving that life. But I think it's kind of the same. Maybe, Tom, it might be a little bit harder when you're younger just because you don't really know what's going to happen or what's going on or why you're getting traded, or maybe they don't like you or they don't want you. I don't think it's along those lines. I think we're just getting a better opportunity in North Bay. So I don't think it's hard, but it's everyone deals with stuff differently. Maybe you can ask Matt because this was his first time getting traded, but it was a little bit easier for myself the second time go around, I guess, getting traded. So yeah.
Macker, how about you? That first time in, what kind of emotions are we talking about?
Obviously the surprise factor right away, but then you kind of start feeling things out. You kind of start thinking about it more, and right away, like I remember I texted, so Kyle Jackson and I, like we grew up playing baseball together. Like we've been really good buddies forever. Like we played together when we were 14. So I remember I called Jacko before I even called my parents when I heard about it. And he was the first person I talked to, and he's in the car with a bunch of boys. He's like, "No way, you're kidding." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of days." And so like right away, like I was just kind of already like excited about it then. And then you start thinking about all the better benefactors, knowing that I'm closer to home because Windsor's 8 hours from Ottawa. So like being 3.5 now is a lot better for my family too. I get to play in the East, play close to my family. And so there's a lot of benefits to it. And so I kind of looked at it like that way. And I'm not trying to get down about it at all. And obviously, like Ladder said, the billet situation, like I've been with them for 3 years now. So obviously that's tough. But it happens, and I met great people, and I've made friendships for life. So I'm happy to move on and make even more.
When it comes to, kind of playing in a place like Windsor compared to North Bay, what are obviously you guys got to play there through COVID and also before COVID and stuff. What are some of the differences really in playing in a place like Windsor compared to North Bay so far, other than the temperature, obviously?
Yeah, see that's the biggest factor, I think, is the temperature, obviously, because Windsor's so warm and you get so used to that lifestyle of being basically no snow. You get to do whatever you want. It's warm all year. Like we were golfing at the end of November, Ladder. So
yeah, it was pretty late. So
it definitely that. But I also think you look at the markets. Like I feel like once everything opens up, like North Bay is a lot of more hockey. They love their team, and everyone's kind of a lot closer than Windsor. And like the rink's kind of out of the way in Windsor, and people kind of have to travel in to go to the rink as it's kind of out of the way. And here it's right in the heart, and it's easy for everyone. And I just think it's even Windsor obviously is a big hockey town, but I feel like North Bay, like their community really loves it.
yeah, I mean, they're both obviously great cities, and then kind of along the line, Tom, when you said you're in Sault Ste. Marie now, I kind of think of North Bay and Sault Ste. Marie kind of the same. You always went to the Sioux, and they're always diehard Greyhound fans, and it's always loud. It's it's freezing all the time there too, right? So I think North Bay is kind of along the line, and I'm kind of excited to see it because playing in the West all my career, I've only been here a few times, so I'm excited to see when whenever we're allowed to go back to full capacity, kind of the fans and just the atmosphere. I remember Uli was showing a couple of us older guys the videos of a few years back when the battalion went deep in the playoffs, and the place was just bumping with fans, and it was loud, and they were singing, and that's kind of what I've always imagined the playoffs being like, because I've only played, I think, 5 or 6 playoff games. So obviously, wow. North Bay, I think it's going to be real fun here when we're allowed fans back. But yeah, it's a great place, but I'm kind of like Max said, the North Bay is a little bit smaller, so people kind of know more of each other, and they're big battalion fans, but both places are great. But it's nice kind of ending my career in a small town like this, just to kind of have that atmosphere at the end of the year, for sure.
Macker, on the offensive side, is it tough to get used to a new system?
Not really. I feel like every system's kind of built around the same grounds, and it's just small little adjustments to be made. And Uli's been really good, and all the guys have been really good, especially coming in. And Uli's the type of guy, like, if you play well in your D zone, you know everything. Like, he kind of gives you free reign in the O zone, and he let you show your skill and do what you can, and score goals, right? So, and as long as you're playing good D zone, so it's been obviously tough the first couple of days. Like, it's a lot different. Windsor, we played like pretty different, I'd say, and so it was definitely tough. But after those couple of days, you kind of get the hang of it, and you just play.
How about you then, Grayson, on the defensive side?
Yeah, actually it was kind of quite a bit different for me coming here, because in our system, Uli wants, fast D zone, where I've always been used to kind of, there's always got to be a D man in front of the net. And, if you look at our system, we don't have that. It's kind of the weak side winger's job to protect the front of the net. And he wants both D men going in the corner and getting the puck and trying to get it out as fast as he can. So that was obviously a bit of a change, because I've been so, I guess my routine has always been, if it's not in my corner, I'm protecting the front of the net. So obviously, like Macker said, I think, our team is really good defensively. And then obviously, if you look at our forwards, especially our top 6, just the skill that we have, I think, if we can crack down on our D, especially, not D, but like defense, especially going down the second half into the playoffs here, I think we'll have a lot of fun for sure.
On the trade side of things, also coming to North Bay, it was a weird time because obviously no fans were anywhere. But how strange is that? You're in a new environment and everything, and the building's empty. Like when you guys first make your battalion debut, there's nobody in the building except for some media and staff members.
Yeah, it was definitely weird, especially since like the game we played before that was in Kitch, and there was fans still at that point. So that was like our first experience without fans, and we didn't play over COVID, right? Ladder night, like we were both like off for those couple of years and didn't play anywhere else. So that was our first time actually experiencing hockey with no fans, and it's definitely weird. But it's also kind of nice because you can hear everything. You hear your teammates, you hear your coaches, and it makes it kind of easier to just understand and play your game. So it's definitely weird, but there's also the benefits to it, but it's definitely not as fun as having fans and cheering, and you don't really get that home ice advantage. Like you make a big hit, like it's just nothing, and you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't that big of a hit, and then you just you keep going. So there's definitely that aspect to it.
It kind of like, for me, it kind of felt like a minor hockey game, right? There, even in minor hockey, there's still maybe a few hundred people there watching it with your parents and your scouts or whatever. But it was really weird. Just this place is so quiet. You're just so used to either if you're away or you're home, the fans cheering you or booing you or whatever. But I remember actually the first night Mac and I were in the hotel room, we were eating our post-game meal or whatever, and I was just like, what the heck is going on here? Like a lot different than what we're used to, because there's a lot like London, Kitch, like they sell out every night, right? So we're used to places being packed, and then you come to a place where there's no one in the arena. It was really weird.
That must have been quite the culture shock for sure.
Yeah, it was.
I have a question for you, Grayson. The game against the Sioux where you're out there in overtime and you have the puck in alone with the goaltender. What goes through your mind when you pass it over to Petrov instead? Because I remember I'm up in the booth with my guys and we're all like, "Oh my God, shoot it!" And the next thing it worked out pretty well. But what's going through your mind in that moment?
To be honest, too much stuff, because I was telling, I think it was Razor after the game, he was waiting for me. He's like, what the heck were you doing? I remember when Cozy passed me the puck at first, I kind of fumbled it because I couldn't believe I got it. And then obviously with Pets, right, he's a true goal scorer. So I was like, well, it's either going to be me shooting it, right? And I was pretty tight into the goalie. So I kind of looked over. I was like, well, I don't really have much of a choice here. You know, you got me shooting the puck or Pets. So I took my chances over with Pets, and obviously it worked out. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever been that close into the goalie with the puck. So it was kind of frightening, but obviously it worked out, fortunately. So.
Yeah, it was just a strange moment because we're all like, "Oh my God, what is he doing?" Well, I mean, again, it worked out pretty good. So you guys both first took in your first Highway 17 rivalry game here, and it was, big come from behind win. How'd you guys, what was it like going out there against the Wolves? It's not just a regular game when Sudbury comes to town.
I mean, we've been through our fair share of rivalries, especially with London being so close, even Sarnia. So, and like even those American teams, like every time you play those teams, it's always just a dogfight. You never really know how you're going to come out of it. And so, coming out of Sudbury, their goalie is really good. All they do is just work, and they outworked us, I think, at the start of that game. And we kind of came in after the second. We're like, guys, we got to do something. We got to get guys in the net. We got to beat them, and we can win this game if we get something going. And we were able to do that. And once this team gets going, there's no way anyone can stop us. So we got going early, and that third period was just domination from start to finish.
Yeah, and then obviously Dom was really big for us in that game, right? So I think if you just kind of look at the two rosters on paper, everyone's kind of expecting more of like a Niagara win type of 7-1 type of win. But I think with Sudbury, they work so hard, and I think it kind of put us on our heels a bit. And then obviously if Dom didn't come up in the third period there, I think we would have ended up losing that game. But I think that's just kind of the way hockey goes, right? You're obviously not going to have the best game of your life every game all the time. So hopefully, you either have a few guys that step up, or, fortunately for us, our goalie stood on his head that game. So.
Fellas, is there anybody you're happy to finally be playing with as opposed to playing against?
Honestly, for me, there's not really a guy, because when I played my first year, when we made like the East trip, I got hurt in this building actually, so I only got to play like a period of hockey against this team. And even guys in the East, like I haven't really played against them much at all. So there's not really many guys on this or anyone on this team that I'm happy for me. But I don't know about Ladder, because he's had more time in the league to play against all those teams.
Yeah, it's tough because like my first year there was players like Adam Asher and Nick Suzuki, like guys that would put your jockstrap in the throw, right? So I think, that was kind of always scary going out against CS. And obviously in my 16-year-old year, I didn't play against those guys too much. I don't think I had the coach's trust just quite yet. But, obviously guys like Cozy, Pets, they're obviously really good players. But I think kind of going along with Mac, obviously this year Mac and I have only played in the West, right? So we didn't really know much about the East. So I mean, I don't think there's a guy that scares me or I'm really happy. Obviously, I'm really happy to be playing with these guys, but I think they're all really good, skilled players. So it's kind of tough, but
For myself, anyways, Tom's in the Sioux, so he can see at least some of these teams coming in to play against the Greyhounds. But other than the Greyhounds coming here, we haven't seen a Western Conference team this season. For you guys who have come from the West, looking at the West, who are some of the top tier teams this year? It's pretty tight, but who are the ones that when you've played against them, you're like, these guys are good?
London's always going to be that team at the top. They're hard players, and they have the players and skill to beat any team, so they're definitely tough. Flint's always a good matchup. When we played them, we had their number earlier in the year, and I don't think Windsor's played them in a while, so I don't really know how that matched up anymore. But Flint's been hot, and they're a really good team. We only played against Guelph one time, but they're hard to play against, and like they have a lot of skilled players, and when their goalies are on, their whole team's on. But I think that's really it.
yeah, like obviously, like Tom can say, like Sioux's obviously they're always pretty good, really good, right? They've had those few teams the last few years, and then obviously they have some really good players on their team now. But yeah, London's always good. Kitch started off hot, but they kind of fell off. They traded away a few guys. But yeah, so I think it'll be, Windsor, London, Sioux, and maybe Guelph up at the top there fighting out of the West. It's kind of, those four teams are really tight, and I think they'll kind of be, a scratch and claw type of finish at the end in the West.
Fellas, do you think that a whole year off affected some guys harder than others? I mean, how tough is it to catch up after a year off?
I think it's tough, especially like for a lot of guys, because you got to look at the opportunity that guys have to skate while everything was closed, and some people didn't have the opportunity to get anything. I was very fortunate that being from Ottawa I'm 15 minutes away from Quebec, and they were basically open the whole time. So like all the Ottawa guys, we'd always be skating in Quebec, and I was basically skating throughout the whole COVID, and like even my gym was open like under wraps, and no one really knew about it. So I was able to, I was able to be in the gym, be on the ice basically whenever I wanted to. So I was able to have that luxury, and I think that the COVID time was a huge benefit to me in my game because I was able to get better over those 2 years that there wasn't really anything else to do.
For me, it was a bit harder because kind of right in the middle of COVID, I had my second shoulder surgery, so I wasn't really allowed to do much. But obviously, Mark Packwood is a trainer. He used to be the trainer for the Spitfires, and now he's with the Coyotes. But I was obviously able to get in to see him a couple of times a week. So it was kind of technically only supposed to be shoulder workouts, but he'd give me a whole body lift. So I was kind of fortunate to go in to see him, but I didn't really have the option like Mac because I'm from Chatham, Kent. So I kind of live in the middle of, hoo-ha nowhere. So I didn't really have anywhere to go because, London, Windsor are the closest cities to my hometown. So I didn't really have much of the opportunity to get on the ice. And then actually, when I did get on the ice, it was on Walpole Island Reserve. So it wasn't even in Chatham, Kent necessarily. So I got lucky because I knew a buddy that had some pull on the island with the ice. So I got fortunate with that. But other than that, I was kind of snake bitten. I couldn't really get in anywhere.
With the battalion, obviously they're not making the trip this year, but we've heard about road trips and the one into the States, is usually the one that's the toughest and the longest. For you guys in the West, what was the one road trip you'd see on the calendar? You're like, I would rather not do that one.
Probably be Ottawa, Mac.
Well, for most guys,
not for you,
trip,
but for
it was
me,
my
yeah.
favorite for sure. It was my favorite trip, but no, it's definitely the Ottawa trip. Like you see that, you stroll into Peterborough, you play there Thursday night, and then you're playing Kingston a Friday night, and you're playing in Ottawa on the Sunday. So, that's a long trip. Your drive after the game on Sunday is going to be not fun whatsoever. But for me, it was nice because we play Thursday, Friday. We drive to Ottawa Friday night, and I'd go home Friday night, stay at my house. I'd be able to do that. And then we practice on Saturday, and then I'd be able to go home again and stay at my house and then drive myself to the game on Sunday. So that road trip was massive for me because it was the only really chance I got to see my family and be with them. So it was worth the 10-hour bus trip for me. But for other guys, I can't even imagine how dreadful that whole trip is.
That was terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. And then you know what, to be honest, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I didn't like North Bay either because actually, so it would have been Mac's first year and my second year. We both had season-ending injuries in North Bay, so we didn't really have good moments or good memories, I guess you could say, and the Gardens. But obviously, it's a lot better now. But I'd probably either go between like the North Bay Sudbury trip or the Ottawa Peterborough Kingston. I didn't, the bus rides just suck. Everyone's like, oh, they're not that bad, but when you got to sit on a straight up seat with no pillow or whatever for 8-10 hours, that's not very fun.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
So in that sense, then when you guys hear the trade, first off, your mind, I'm sure, is going, it's running overdrive because A, you're being traded, but B, to find out it's North Bay where you guys don't have great history with the building. What's your initial reaction when you do find out that it's North Bay?
Well, obviously, Larry and I think the first thing we did was joke about it. I played a period of hockey here, and then I dislocated my shoulder and had to get surgery a month later. So that didn't work out for me. And Ladder, what was it? He dislocated his thumb, I think, 10 minutes after. He broke his thumb 10 minutes after I dislocated my shoulder. So we're both in the room just being like, yeah, here we go. And so yeah, it was definitely funny. We joked about it a bunch, but you can't really think about any of those things when you're coming out to play hockey. So you kind of put that in your rear view and you can laugh about it in the future. But right now we're here to have success with this team.
Yeah, obviously, it's my last year, right? So I kind of had the goal of being on a team that might have a little bit of a run here at the end of the year, starting at this year. And obviously Windsor has that chance too, just as much as North Bay. But I think it's a good city. I got great billets. It's a great bunch of guys. I think, I don't think I've ever seen a group this close in a while, because I know kind of in Windsor, it was kind of the older guys and the younger guys, and it still is kind of that here. But even when we're in the room, all the older guys joke around with the young guys and vice versa. So it's a really good group here. And then obviously, Denny's, like I was saying before, Denny's a great person, and all the coaching staff are really good too.
So Kyle, illuminate us a little bit. You said you knew Jacko beforehand. How does Kyle Jackson, the hockey player, compared to Kyle Jackson, the baseball player?
Quite different, actually. I feel like Jacko's more like he's kind of more of a serious guy on the ice. Like I know that from playing hockey with him too. Like he's one track mind, and as soon as he's in his mode, he's in his mode. But baseball, like he was always joking around, and it was kind of fun. Like you're playing a summer sport. Like we're both pretty good too. So like we're having fun on that team, kind of two top dogs. And so me and him was just always joking around, having our fun. And we knew that hockey was kind of like our big sport. And so baseball was kind of just our release. So it was always more jokes, and it was super fun because at the same time you're always playing spring hockey, right, during those days. And so we'd have a baseball game, then later that day we'd be playing a spring hockey tournament together. So it was always jokes, and it was super fun.
We've asked other players we've had on about trades and the logistics that go behind a trade. Windsor's not close to North Bay, obviously. What are some of the things that we don't really see that you guys have to deal with, moving from Windsor to North Bay, especially in the middle of a season?
I think the hardest thing for Mac and I would have been driving up, because I think, I forget the day it was, but Denny called us and said, yeah, we want you to play against Missy tomorrow night. So Mac and I woke up, I think, like 6:37 in the next morning, and we had to drive 7+ hours to get here, and then they wanted us to play the hockey game, right? And I think it's just kind of that, like I said, about the emotions, right? Like moving on from a place you kind of called your second home, especially for me, maybe not so much Mac, because I was so close to home, I could go home whenever I wanted, right? So you're kind of just kind of trying to let go of those emotions, I guess, and kind of get ready for your new start. And then obviously Mac didn't have snow tire. He can tell you the story. He didn't have snow tires on his car coming all the way up. So we called each other on the phone a few times because I was following Mac, so he was sliding over the road a little bit. But we made it here, and I think we won that game too. So Mac can tell you maybe a little bit more about his adventure with the no snow tires. But
let's hear it.
Yeah, no. Well, I remember it was a big internal debate with me and my mom and my dad, especially. Like I went home at Christmas, and I was like, "There's a lot more snow this year than usually is." And I went back home, and I was like, like, what should I do? Like, do I just try my best in Ottawa and see if I can survive with summer tires, or do I throw on my winters? And it was just too much work to throw them on at the time. So I went through Christmas and then drove back with my summers because I didn't think I need them. And then I got traded. The first, like, especially I got home and I was like, Dad, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I need winter tires. And like my billet called me too. And she was like, yeah, we have a pretty steep driveway. So I hope you have like winter tires. And I was like, oh no, this is not good. So, but my dad was good. He was able to bring them up and like same day. So we drove down the day after Denny called us on the game day, and we got here about, was it 3:00 ladder?
I think so, yeah.
So we dropped our stuff off at the rink, and then like, hey, you guys can go to the hotel and we'll get you guys food. So we get back to the hotel like 3:45, eat our food. We got to be back at the rink for 4:30. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. You go there, you throw on your suit, you eat your food as fast as you can, you go to the rink. And that was a weird game, weird turnaround, especially with a new group. You haven't even met them yet and you're showing up for a game. And so that was definitely weird, especially because, well, from, I guess, ladder, both of us, we don't know anyone, but I knew Jacko, but he wasn't playing yet. So I'm coming into a full new group too. I didn't even know Jackson. So it was definitely really weird playing that first day. But for the winter tires, my dad came down the next day and I was able to throw them on, but it was definitely, it was an interesting drive. That's for sure.
I think we were all up in the media box, surprised to see you guys in the lineup that quickly. But so one of the last questions I got for you guys here is kind of a frontline rite of passage. You guys have played all over the league. What's your favorite and what's your least favorite rinks to play in?
I'll let you take it away, Lateral. I got some thinking to do.
You know what? Tom's gonna like me for this one because one of my favorite rinks is Sioux.
Nice place.
I love playing the Sioux. It's kind of like Sarnia. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Sarnia's rink. I'm sure you have, but it's got just the one lower bowl, right, and a few boxes and that. But it's always, like I said, the fans are great. And it's playing with Windsor. We've always kind of had really good success playing there too. I think the one year we beat them a few times, like 10 plus goals, I think. So that's a great place. Obviously, Lundo's great. Just Kitch, all the places that are the fans, and then I'd probably have to go with either Sudbury or Owen Sound. I just hate playing there. Especially like Owen Sound, you get hit there and it's concrete. Like you don't move. You just stick to where you're hit. So obviously it's I find it hard getting up for those games because you're, especially as a D-man, because some guys try to wallpaper you, right? And Sudbury's kind of known for, being very physical. So it's not very fun going back to the corner to get the puck and someone's coming to especially when Macaulay Carson was in the league, because I remember I got flattened by him a few times, and he had some choice words or whatever, but yeah, it's not very fun playing there for me.
I think I'd have to go with, I think Kitch is probably one of my favorite spots to play. It's so bright, so loud, and so much fun playing that rink. And you kind of feed off of every energy that's through that building. And whenever they get cheers, it kind of gets you going too, because you're like, oh, like I love this, and you kind of want to shut them up. You know what I mean, in a sense. So that's definitely really nice. London's pretty good too, but it's so quiet until something happens, because it's kind of like an older crowd, so it's really quiet there. But I say my least favorite, definitely Sudbury, because the board's awful, but also Ottawa. Like I skate there in the summers and I don't like their rink whatsoever because of the corners as well. Like it's kind of like Peterborough, but not as bad, where they're basically 90 degrees in the corner. And like you're going to that corner, you have no idea where that puck's going if you're shooting it into it. So that's definitely no fun, especially I can imagine for ladder as a defenseman. You don't know if you're going back for a puck that's going to be there, if it's going to be on the other side of the rink. So that's definitely no fun.
Yeah, it's funny that you guys both said Sudbury, because almost everyone says Sudbury or Peterborough. So
Owen Sound's got a nice mix too.
Yeah.
Owen Sound, like Ladder said, like you just can't get up for those games. Like you get on the bus, you're on your way there, you're like, I really don't want to play this game, and you're just really excited for it to be over because they work so hard too, and you just, there's no space on that rink, like none at all. You get the puck, there's 5 guys on you, and there's nothing to do.
We had some tough nights there. I remember actually one of my first. Well, it was my first year. Actually, I think the last before I got traded, it was a Sportsnet game, and Owen Sound wasn't like, they were okay that year, but like Kitch was kind of a powerhouse, and we got spanked like 10-1 on national television in that rink. And ever since then, I was just like, I hate this place. Like Max said, you're driving up on the bus, it's snowing, it's whatever, the fans they're a different breed, I guess you could say too, right? So it's just not like the away room. Well, it's actually not a bad away room, but just walking out of the tunnel onto the ice, like, oh, here we go again, kind of attitude. So,
and not to mention,
Completely agree.
I saw on social media this week that some guy was like, "Oh, look at these Owen Sound fans lining up in -60 weather for tickets," or something like that. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, gentlemen, we really appreciate your time here this evening and coming on the front line. We'll have to get you on again at some point, I'm sure, before the end of the season. But yes, thank you so much for joining us on the Frontline podcast.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
So their first tour of duty complete. I got Kyle Jackson stuck in my head because we mentioned him so often. Grayson Ladd, Kyle McDonald on the Frontline podcast. I'm Tom Parisi's Courtney Kenny, and some breaking news earlier on this Love Day, Valentine's Day. The battalion's home game, no, it's a game in Sudbury, pardon me,
Yes.
this Thursday, canceled. And there's no rescheduling as of yet. They didn't say why. They just put it off. It was supposed to be at 7:05 on Wednesday, and that's not happening yet. But they still have a game Thursday.
No, Friday.
Or Friday.
It's a strange
I'm
week.
all out of sorts.
It's a very strange week because of that Wednesday game they were playing on
Like
Friday.
I'm so used to a Thursday game.
And there's no Sunday game this week either.
It's just calamity.
It's a long
Well, it might
weekend.
be now.
Yeah. Well, the conspiracy theorist inside of me says maybe it's because fans are coming back to half capacity the day after.
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe that's why they're doing it, right? Like, who knows? But yeah, no reason given. Kind of disappointed. I was thinking of making the road trip to Sudbury to at least watch the game. I don't think we were going to broadcast it. I just want to go and watch a hockey game, as we've mentioned many times on this podcast. And it's not happening now. So, oh well, it is what it is. But if it was anything like Sunday's game against the Wolves, it would have been very entertaining. At least the third period.
That was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I got to listen to your call on the game, and I couldn't believe it was like, 3-0 to Wolves. This is going to suck. And then you got more excited every time they scored. And I didn't catch much of the third period, but I watched the highlights, and I was pretty pleased with the outcome. I'm glad they rallied. I'm glad they did it. This is this the first time they've erased a 3-goal deficit that late in the game since like 2018, I think? They beat Mississauga. I might have been doing that game.
I would say you're probably not far from the mark because they weren't that great, since then.
Well, Christian Prop was playing back. Yeah, I think it was back then. Yeah, probably must have been.
And I can tell you for a fact, Craig Duncanson, the head coach of the Sudbury Wolves, I went down post game to interview Ryan, and boy, he was saying a lot of things that you could hear out in the hallway to his team.
Naturally,
I was less than impressed. What is it with teams that are like blue and white and blowing leads in the third period?
It's best we don't discuss.
It still hurts. It still hurts. There's like a single tear coming down. But yeah, no, it was a great effort by the battalion in the third period. Ryan actually he was telling me he liked their effort the entire game because they were getting their chances. They just weren't bearing them. And Mitchell Weeks has been a heck of a goaltender this year, especially against the battalion. So kudos to him. You can't not tip your cap to him and David Goyette, who had the hat trick for the Wolves as well. So
if the Wolves aren't doing great next year, Weeks is going to fetch them a pretty penny at the deadline. Just saying.
I think is he not an overager this year? Well, we'll have to figure
this
that
is
one out.
Calamitous on this one. But hey, the troops have won like what, 8 straight games now?
7, yeah.
7. I mean, holy jumping. Because before that, we were talking, geez, they're like 2-12 or 3-12.
Yeah.
They got to get something going. And then all of a sudden, bam.
Hey, we got this. It was a pretty rough stretch through December and January, but everyone's kind of turned it on. Kyle Jackson's looked good since coming back. Brandon
Petrov,
yeah.
Man,
Kyle
wait till I get
McDonald.
Arnsby back. Honestly.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, that second line right now is Van Steensel, Russell, and McDonald,
who have done fantastic.
Exactly.
Van Steensel's been outstanding. Romani and Sema have had piles of good games in a row.
They have.
Bouchard.
They really have. Bouchard's looked good. Everyone on the team is pulling their weight, or Tarasenko, as Matt called him on Thursday's broadcast. He got Tatarenko and Tarasenko mixed up. and also, the hockey player for the St. Louis Blues, Tarasenko. So we called him out on air for it. We were
Good.
joking pretty good about it. But yeah, everyone's been pulling their weight. It's been great, and it hasn't been, we cried about secondary scoring for a while, and it's coming. Like, it's everybody's giving you offense right now. So, and
No, we knew this was coming. We talked about it before the deadline. I think, guys are going to figure it out. Wakely scoring highlight reel goals when he's scoring them.
Yep.
Every time. And Russell's been just killing it lately, both in the faceoff dot and just general in games. So they're coming out at the right time. DeVincentis is doing fantastic. Dom had some big saves in that Sudbury game. You heard the fellas talking about it earlier on. And that's what you need. Give Joe some breaks, let him recharge. He's good for the playoffs.
And even then, Joe's looked good recently too. Like, he's played really well.
Especially in that shootout against Ottawa way back. He was pretty stellar in that one.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Dom had 3 big saves in a row against Sudbury, and he had
Those were spectacular.
Yeah, and then he had one other one where he came across and in the splits and everything too earlier, and both were game-saving saves, because if you let a goal in at that point, the game's over. Like, so
game over. 100%. Those are game savers, and I'm sure it didn't. Stop the guys from like, hey, he's giving it everything he's given. Time we do the same, and they picked it up. I knew they'd do it.
Yeah,
I knew they'd do it.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about, especially I can't say enough good things about a victory over the Wolves. I can't say enough good things about a victory over the Steelheads, especially how close they are in standings now, and games played as well as getting up there too. So I think the Battalion only have 2 games in hand, and the Steelheads were sputtering, for a while, so they weren't doing what they needed to do.
Barry's lost 6 straight.
Yep.
I knew that would even out.
Mac Guzda is kind of falling back to earth a little bit for them.
Signs a contract.
Yeah, I'm
Poor
good
kid.
now.
Poor kid.
No, he's just kind of I'm good now. In all honesty, if I say I don't like you on this podcast, it's a sign of respect, and I do not like Mac Guzda. Like,
it's because he's battalion killer.
Yeah, I don't like Joe Ranger. I don't
Another
like
shutout for him.
Yeah, right. I don't like Roman Bastrom, and I don't like Mitchell Weeks. It's just unfortunate all these goalies are in the same division as the Battalion, but I don't like them.
A term of endearment for you. I get it. It's okay.
It should be. They should put a feather in the cap and be like, hey, that weird guy up in North Bay with that podcast, he doesn't like me.
So let's play the game of our lives, because the bald guy and Courtney is listening.
Yeah.
Or watching.
Yeah, pretty accurate.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, the game postponed, which is an odd one, and then they hit the road next Sunday. There's a Peterborough game sandwiched in there too on next Friday. But yeah, Ottawa, Niagara, Hamilton, Sudbury, all road games at the tail end of the month.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember we talked about the schedule at the beginning of the year, being like, wow, most of the home games are going to come in February, March. Doesn't feel like it. Like we're through like the big homestand right now, and it's kind of like, that was over quick.
That was it.
Yeah, like, oh, okay.
No, I hear you, but hey, road games are just as important, so they're going to make their run, and it'll only make them better. Plus, those are never, you heard the fellas, those were not easy road trips, no matter if you're coming from east or west. I've been on the bus. It's never easy. So they're going to pull through. They're going to make it worth it a while. I promise.
It's going to be exciting. It's exciting times right now. And just saying, last time I looked at the standings, if the season was going to end today, the Battalion would be taking on the Barrie Colts in the first round. So that would be a heck of a series.
Serendipitous is what it would be.
Yep. Mac Gusta, be prepared for me to really not like you at the end of that.
No in-game interviews for you, champ. You're blacklisted.
No, maybe I will give them in-game interviews, because as you heard the guys say, they're in-game interviews. Nah.
Should stop doing those. Anyhow, listen, if you're watching this on your TV, you can watch the full things, the full episodes, YouTube, or hey, listen to us. Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Look us up on Social media, the battalion too. And on game days, look for our YouTube broadcasts, entirely free. Have a listen. Sometimes Courtney's got the call. Sometimes it's our good buddy Matt Sugram. Bob Cole's always making a guest appearance. Derek Lindemann's doing a heck of a job too. And Ben Long, the other intrepid producer of the games, always makes an appearance. And to our own intrepid producer, Ben Sargent, we always say our big thank yous. And yeah, that was the Frontline podcast episode. God knows how many, 72, 73, maybe.
We need Derek.
We got a count. We had a count not too long ago, but this was a lot of fun, and I promise we'll do it again sometime.